Okay, we are rocking. Hey, what is going on? How do you buy assets that produce income? We're going to cover that right now. My name is Will. I go live every day, and I teach you the things that I did to get financially free by 29. If you've never been here before, welcome. What's up? What's cooking? Let's get our camera sitch all set up. Okay, so really the main idea, if you've never been here before, let's learn how we can get freedom without waiting until we're old. The main idea and concept that we talk about all the time. I've got a daily morning show that I go live on, and I teach you the frameworks on this. One of the frameworks that if you want to get freedom without waiting until you're old is you have to buy assets that produce passive income. This is the entire name of the game. You want to buy assets that produce passive income. When the passive income that your assets are generating produce enough money that is greater than or equal to your monthly expenses, you are financially free. So what you can do is you can take your monthly expenses, add them all up, your mortgage, your rent, your groceries, your car payment, your utilities, paying the kids, feeding the kids, all this stuff, whatever that adds up to. Let's call it $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, whatever your number is. Think about that, and you can write this down, and I would take notes on this right now. That's the number that you've got to hit, and think about it. If you don't have this, then what you're doing, this is really what it is, you are taking your time and you are trading that to earn money. You're taking the skills that you know and you are applying those skills to the marketplace and you are selling those skills for money. So if you want to get your time back, you replace that by buying assets. The assets replace your time. When the assets replace your time, the assets are producing an income. When the income produces enough money, it covers all of your expenses. So let's get rid of that and get back on track. We want to go out there. If you want to get your time back and you want to get freedom, this has nothing to do with waiting until you're 65 or 70 years old. If you want your time back, we buy assets that produce passive income. Right now, in this live, we're going to go through and evaluate a couple of different asset types. We're going to pull principles out of evaluating those assets, and then you can understand how you can go out there and evaluate assets too. Let me teach you. So let's just review this, and let me know down in the comments. If I missed something, we'll add it into the next live. We do lives every Tuesday and every Thursday at 12 noon Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. So what are some assets that we can buy that produce passive income? Let me know down in the comments. Let me give you an example. Let's say that we go out there and we buy real estate. This is a very common one. Most people are familiar with real estate because they either own real estate or they live and rent from somebody else who owns real estate, and they can understand the concept. So under like the umbrella of real estate, we can do traditional long-term investing. So I could buy a piece of real estate. I can get a tenant in there for 12 months or longer. That's going to be a long-term rental. A lot of what has caught attention since I think like 2007, 2008 is short-term rentals or vacation rentals. This is not going to go away. It's going to transform and morph. There's a lot of regulation going on with it right now. There's ways around that. We're not going to get into that right now. We can do that later. But it's under the umbrella of real estate. If I want to stay in the long term, then I can get into like multifamily. We can talk about duplexes. We can talk about quadplexes. We can get big and talk about apartment complexes. All kinds of things are under this umbrella of real estate. Maybe we don't want to mess with real estate. Maybe we want to get into ice machines. Maybe, what is an ice machine? So you can buy an ice machine that's ice vending. So you walk up to it, you put your dollars into it, and it gives you a bag of ice. You walk away. You can fill up your ice chest. This is a very common thing in blue-collar areas of cities. We can get into vending machines. We can get into ATMs. We can buy self-storage. We can buy raw land and turn that into glamping. We could buy raw land, rent it out to cell phone towers. The list goes on and on and on. It is infinite to the number of things that you can do. So anyway, let's say that we pick ice machine. Doesn't matter. You pick ice machine. The name of the game is we buy assets that produce passive income. When the passive income is greater than your expenses, you are financially free. So here we go. Let's say that we buy an ice machine. And let's say that under the umbrella of passive income, it gives us $1,000 a month in profit. Everybody say profit, profit. Type profit in the comments. Profit. The key on this is that you're going to have expenses with anything that you own. Any asset that you buy, there are going to be expenses. Does the income that I earn exceed the expenses that I pay? And if it does, is it enough for me to continue pursuing this asset? If it's not enough, I'm out like a trout. I'm going to move on to the next asset. Doesn't mean we avoid assets because they have expenses. It means that we find assets that produce enough profit to be a passive income stream that we want to then cover our expenses. So if we buy an asset like an ice machine, and that ice machine gives us $1,000 a month in profit, how many ice machines do we need until we're free? If your monthly expenses are $5,000 a month and you have an asset that gives you $1,000 a month in profit, how many assets do you need until you're free? Greater than or equal to? Well, if each asset gives me $1,000 a month and my expenses are $5,000 a month, I'm 5 assets away from freedom. That's the philosophy. That's what I did to get financially free by age 29. Once I figured this out, and it's not like new ideas. I just read a bunch of books, hung out with a lot of rich people. This is the stuff they think about. And I was like, hey, that sounds like a great idea. Let me just start doing some of this. Well, in order for us to do this, we've got to learn how we can cash flow. Like, what is the process of due diligence? How do I review? Like, all of this sounds freaking awesome, dude. But how do I start implementing this? Well, let's go through this. I forgot to hook my microphone up. I don't even know if anybody can hear me. Can you hear me? Let me know down in the comments. If you can't hear me, well, then this is practice for the time that it's actually going to count. So let's get into this. What is the process of due diligence? Due diligence is doing all of the research. What are all the different ways that I can make income from this asset? What are all the different expenses that I'm going to have inside of this asset? What's my startup cost? What's my down payment? What is the interest from the loans that I'm going to have to pay? Like, all of that stuff is the process of due diligence. I call it, does it cash flow? So due diligence, fancy. I'm not that fancy. I did not go to Harvard. So I just want to make money. Does it make profit? So here we go. Let me walk you through a couple of things that we do. So we just placed an ice machine last week. I'm going to walk you through some of the beginning stages. You ever do the thing where like you start writing, but then you run out of room? Do you ever do that? I do that all the time. I'm like, I know what I'm going to say, but I can't ever figure out the end. Anyway, next time. So what is the process of figuring out if an ice machine is going to cash flow? There's a couple of things that you can do. I've done many calls with sales reps of different ice machine manufacturers, owners of different ice machines all around the country, from Massachusetts all the way over to California. I've talked to a lot of these people. Here's the things, the general consensus of the things that they recommend that you evaluate. Here's the things that I look out for before I ever place an ice machine. So this is one example. Then we're going to take out the principles from the ice machine asset type, and we can apply that to other asset types. Okay, so we'll probably get into real estate or something traditional after this. The first thing that I want to do is I've got to understand traffic. What is the traffic? Everybody type T in the chat for traffic, or write it down in your notes. Traffic. What is the traffic in an area? This is going to take a really big map and narrow it down to a small section. So if I'm going to put an ice machine, maybe I want to buy an ice machine in the south. Maybe I want to do that instead of the top half of the country. I want to go to the bottom half. So now I just cut the United States in half. Maybe I want to buy it in Texas. I live in Texas. I'm familiar with Texas. That's going to immediately eliminate 49 states and narrow it down to one state. Then I can start doing my research. Step number 2. Inside of the traffic umbrella, I want you to go to your Department of Transportation. Say DOT, Department of Transportation, and I want you to look up traffic studies. This is, especially in Texas, this is where I live. I live in Austin, Texas. In the state of Texas, they spend a lot of money there's a big budget for the Department of Transportation. And I would do this even if you're not looking to do this, just as practice to get the reps in so you can really see how simple this thing can be. If I'm looking for the traffic, I'm going to go to the Department of Transportation website. So I'm going to type in, insert state name here, Texas, Department of Transportation, traffic studies, bang. It's going to take me to the Department of Transportation website. It's going to be a map. It's going to look something like this. You're going to see roads, and then there's going to be these dots that you can zoom in. You can select a dot. What we are looking for is 10,000 cars per day. If you look at their chart, it's like AADV. It's like average annual driver's value or something. Like, it's how many cars are on the road per day on average throughout the year. What we are looking for is 10,000 cars or more per day. So now we have taken a 50-state country. We've cut it in half. We're going to select south. You can still make money in the north with an ice machine, but we'll get into that later. Narrowed it down to a state. Eliminated 49 states. I've got one state. Now I'm going to narrow it down to areas. There's only going to be 10,000 cars more per day is not that crazy. It's not that big of a number. You can be in the outskirts, but I might start focusing on Dallas outskirts, Austin outskirts, San Antonio outskirts, Houston outskirts, Lubbock, Abilene, some of these outlined states, Midland, Odessa, things like that. Now that I have a framework, 10,000 cars or more per day. You see how we're starting to narrow this down? We're going to take these same principles and apply it to the next asset. I'm going to give you a bonus. I was on the call with one of the ice machine manufacturer's sales reps. He's got an incentive to sell ice machines. We didn't end up buying from that guy, but he gave us a really good tip. He was like, I asked him, and this is like income statement stuff that we'll get into Airbnbs and other already cash flowing assets. I was like, hey, can we talk to, do you have any references of owners that you've helped set up for ice machines that you could refer us to, and we can kind of talk to them about their experience and preferably talk to them about the income that they've made. Can they provide income statements to us? Or is the point of sale system that y'all receive the credit cards on, is that something connected to the company that you could give us some data on these locations that we are looking at? And we've got a theory that this location has a lot of cars going through it per day, and we think that it can make good money. Could you give us an export of the point of sale systems in this area that we're looking at before we ever purchase an ice machine? Which are all good questions that I would retain and remember that you can use and ask for you to get the data. And he said, for sure, we can do some of that, but check this out. One of the places that I would always look in, placing an ice machine, if you want to place an ice machine, is I would look, I don't know why I did it that way, is I would look into blue-collar areas. Blue-collar workers are the type of, the people that keep our entire country running, but that's welders, electricians, plumbers, landscapers. That's that section. What part of your city are blue-collar workers living in? So are they in this section of the city? I don't know what we're drawing over here. Are they in that section of the city? We're going to scratch all that. But you know what I'm saying. Where in this city are blue-collar workers living? Placement of your ice machine in that area can be really good because they start their day filling up their ice chests because they're going to be out in the field working. They're going to be working on a fence, welding a fence. They're going to be in a construction site, working on construction all day. They're not going to leave the site. You ever seen the taco trucks or the food trucks that pull up for lunchtime at a construction site? Those guys don't leave. They got a porta potty. They do their work. They do their business. They back to work. So you can place an ice machine in a blue-collar section of town, and you could sell way more ice in that area of town because of the location placement. So you could check this box. Hey, we got 10,000 cars more per day. Hey, we're going to check this box. We got blue-collar workers in this area. Where do blue-collar workers start their day? Well, they might be gathering supplies to throw it on their truck before they go out there. Maybe you want to place your ice machine near a Lowe's, near a Home Depot, near a lumber yard, things like this. These are all just indicators that you can start checking off. And if I can check off as many of these boxes as I can, that's going to give me a really good indication of where I can place an ice machine. You see what I'm saying? So these are the things that I would start working on and looking. Now there's like some other subtle things. You can work around these, but these are also very beneficial. Do you have an innie or do you have an outie? Do you have both? So in real estate, they call it ingress egress. How easy can somebody pull in to a shopping center? How easy can somebody get out of a shopping center? How easy can they get in? How easy can they get out? So if I'm going to place my ice machine in a certain area that's blue collar, it's got 10,000 cars more per day, and there's a parking lot and it's hard to get in, you're going to drastically limit the number of these cars that are going to go into your parking lot. So as I'm starting to look at in these areas, I want to look like at a Google Maps level, the ingress, the egress. How easy is it to get in? How easy is it to get out of that parking lot? Especially thinking about blue collar workers that might have a trailer. Like there's welders with a truck and maybe they've got some equipment on the back end of their trailer. Can they get in, maneuver around the ice machine to fill up their stuff and then maneuver out? Or is it real compact and real tight? That might eliminate an area that I was normally going to place it. I might place it down the street. You see on that? So let's kind of debrief, take a step back, take a deep breath. This is all under the principle of traffic. Say principle. Say it out loud. Principle. Type P in the comments. The principle that we are pulling out of this is traffic. All of this research and data that I need to find and acquire is in the principle of traffic. How many people are going to drive by my asset? And we're going to do all of this work on paper before I ever actively go out there and buy the asset. This is going to give me an indication of the things that I want to do before I ever place it. Let's take this principle and apply it to the next one. Let's say rental / Airbnb. And if this is helpful, let me know down in the comments. If you've never been here before, my name is Will. I go live every day. On YouTube, I go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 12 noon Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. So if you want to hang out with us, we're here on YouTube. Every other day, I'm somewhere else. You have to find me. But if you want to catch me on YouTube, here's the spot. So let's think about real estate, long-term rentals, Airbnbs. I'm going to split this down the middle because the principles are going to exist on both sides, but we need to have a fallback plan as regulation is shifting and changing around Airbnbs. So with real estate's very good, can be very profitable. There's a lot of good stuff you can do. There's also some things that you can mess up, as with any asset. But as always, the greatest risk that you can ever take is being born because you're not getting out of here alive. So inside of real estate, we're going to talk about the principle of traffic. If I'm going to place an asset and I want it to be an Airbnb, what are some things that bring people to an area, then they want to stay in an Airbnb? Like, what's an attraction? People don't go to just stay in an Airbnb unless it's some, like really cool creative thing. Like, I don't know, like a school bus in a tree somewhere crazy. But like, what are things that draw people to an area? Why would they hop on a plane to go stay somewhere? Oh yeah, while we're there, we got to sleep. Let's get an Airbnb. Well, proximity to a national park. So we could say, let's just take this. We could say national park. Maybe they're going to travel for that reason. Maybe there's an amusement park. Maybe they want to go to Disney World, Universal Studios, Six Flags. What are the other ones? I don't know. Amusement park. What are some other reasons? Maybe they're going to travel for a sporting event. Sports. If your city wins the rights to the Olympics, you might want to think about doing an Airbnb while the Olympics is going on. You might want to move out because it could be extremely profitable. Sporting events. This could be concerts. What are some other reasons that people are going to do this? Let me know down in the comments. What are reasons people go to a thing? Go to a location they want to stay at your Airbnb. These are indicators of traffic driving people to an area. It goes on and on and on. So we can look for these factors. I've got an entire list. I guess I can put it in the description of the video or something, but I've got an entire list of like the check boxes. And if you can check as many of these as you can, you're going to really be doing good. So let's say like, oh yeah, we're kind of near a national park. We're like 20 minutes from a national park. In the wintertime, we've got skiing on this mountain, so we're going to be near that. There's actually a concert and a sporting venue nearby, within an hour driving distance of an amusement park. If I can check as many of those things, cool, you're winning. But you don't need to check them all. It just may be helpful to check more than less. So this is going to be an indicator of traffic. Now, what happens if, I don't know, like, for example, the state of New York, let's color red because red's not good. Red, it means negative. Bleh. Let's say the state of New York City. State of New York City? The city. New York City. Let's just say New York City. Say New York City. Let's say Dallas-Fort Worth. Let's say Houston, Texas. Let's say the island of Hawaii. Says, we don't want anything to do with short-term rental properties. With Airbnbs, we want nothing to do with that. So we're going to start regulating it. And the city of Dallas County has said that if you have an Airbnb in 2023, you have to not have an Airbnb by December 31st, 2023. Otherwise, there's going to be penalties. New York City, $5,000 per day fine. They've got some certain regulations. They're not going to allow you to have it unless you hit these certain parameters. And if you don't, and you got it, it's $5,000 a day. That's crazy. Hawaii's really always kind of been anti-Airbnb, anti-short-term rental, which is really interesting. They kind of they thrive off of tourism, but sometimes they have like these anti-touristic philosophies and principles. And I get it. The locals, they've got their own philosophies and own ideas. I totally get it. And there's also ways around it. However, if you're going to be regulated like this, and you have an entire business plan around cash flowing Airbnb, and then the government comes in and they regulate it, what are you going to do? A part of our due diligence process on these types of assets are that we are going to go back and we're going to make sure that, let's just do separate line item, cash flow. Let's just solve for cash flow. So cash flow is income minus expenses. What is our net profit going to be? Let's say that, just pick the same house. We've got the same house. So if we take the same house, can y'all read the board? I hope so. We take the same house. Let's say as a long-term rental, you're going to make, let's say, $300 a month in profit. And when I'm talking about profit, I will do a YouTube live on this. I go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 noon Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern. I will do a YouTube live on this on how we set aside money for vacancies, for capital expenditures. So that's like fixing your roof, fixing your air conditioner, things you're going to have to do. You need to start setting aside some money from every rental check you get. And then there's all kinds of other stuff that we need to set aside for. Obviously paying the mortgage, PITI, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, setting aside all that money. After all of that's said and done, what is your profit? Let's call that number $300 for this hypothetical scenario. So we've got $300. Do you see green better? I don't think it matters. $300 for a long-term rental. But we run the numbers, and on a short-term rental, I will do an entire breakdown on this. But let's call short-term rental, let's say our break-even ratio. So just really quick, rough overview. Let's say hypothetically that your mortgage is $1,000 a month. And then let's say that you can rent the house out for $100 a night. Your break-even ratio between these two numbers is you have to rent your house for 10 nights per month. If your mortgage is $1,000 a month and you rent it for 10 nights at $100 a night, you've broken even. There are other expenses. I get it. There's utilities, fees for Airbnb. I'm with you on all that. Just a rough estimate just to get you an idea. Let's say your break-even is 10 nights. Well, you do all the math. You figure out the break-even ratio with all the expenses factored in. You can look at some history and some data on your occupancy rate. And you're like, holy cow, very conservatively factoring all of this stuff in, my short-term rental profit could be, I don't know, $1,500 a month. Like I'm just making numbers up, but hypothetically, let's go here. So short-term is what I'm going to lead with. I'm like, holy cow, Batman. If I can get this short-term rental property up and running in one of these areas, and I don't have any regulation, then at $1,500 a month, baby, let's go. Let's go get as many of these bad boys as we can. But I also have to protect myself. What if my city's not on here right now, but what if I buy an asset in a city, and then the city says, you know what, we agree with those cities. If you have an Airbnb, you can't have an Airbnb anymore. Otherwise, we're going to come down on you. Okay, cool. Now I know before I ever buy the asset, this is what I'm going to go for. But I know as my backup plan, if my city ever gets entered into this regulation zone, that boom, I can fall back on a $300 a month plan. Does that make sense? If you're with me on this, say I got it. Like, let me know in the comments if that makes sense. Like, hey, this makes sense. I'm with you on this. Step number, like, before, this is huge. Write this down in your notes or say this out loud or write it in the comments. Before I ever buy an asset, I want to know all the different ways that I can exit the deal and still come out on top. This is like risk management 101, but I need to know all of those different data points. Like before I've ever bought an asset, let's say these numbers are accurate. I just made them up, but let's say it's accurate. I know I can make a lot of money, but I can't let that blind me from the risk that exists in the world. Okay, so what's my backup plan? If they regulate me, this is my backup plan. Okay, but how do I exit this? In case everything crashes and all falls apart, how can I unload the property? Like, what are some strategies that I can do there? So you want to walk through this. That's one of the questions that you can ask in your due diligence process. Fancy due diligence, me, does it cash flow? Does it make money? Yes or no? Part of your due diligence process needs to be the question, how many different ways can I exit this asset in case everything goes wrong? So I just laid out one way as a backup plan if your first aim is Airbnb. Got it? Does that make sense? Oh my goodness gracious. How long have we been live? We were a little late today. Let me know. I need to check the comments. But if this is helpful, let me know down in the comments. I go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Eastern time. We walked through today, just kind of a quick recap. We walked through really philosophically where I stand on how did I get financially free by 29. I focused on this path. We bought assets that produce passive income. When the passive income is greater than or equal to your expenses, you're financially free. When you buy an asset that gives you money, you buy back your time. So I take money and I buy an asset, I get my time back. So if I buy an asset that gives me, let's say, $500 a month, and my time is worth $50 an hour, the asset gave me back 10 hours of my time. You with me? Let me walk you through this example. So let's go here. And good afternoon. How are you doing? Hope you're doing good. I'm doing great. Let's get into this. So if you want to be successful in anything in life, you just study the failures of any category and you'll do well. Just like if you don't have any mentors, you don't have any books, anything like that, just study the failures of any category. Study fat people if you want to get fit. Study broke people if you want to get rich. Study unhappy people to get happy. Study people in bad relationships to get into good relationships, things like that. So, under that study, let's look at what broke people do. No disrespect, I was there too. As you know, you can change your identity now. It's 2023, so we're going to change our identity. How do we go about this? Broke people take their time and they trade it for money. Nothing wrong with that. That's what they do. That's what I did. My first job, I was a janitor. That's what I was doing. I was trading my time for money. So what is the opposite? If we want to be successful in anything in life, we can just do the opposite of the failures of any category. I think I need to adjust the lighting or something. Well, what do rich people do? Rich people do the opposite. There's only two variables, so we just need to flip them, right? They take money and they buy time. So what does that mean? This is cool, that's great for a YouTube video, dude, but what the heck does it mean? Well, here's what happens. I want to take present money that I'm actively earning in my job or in my business. I want to set it aside so I can buy something that gives me back my time. So I'm taking present money and I'm buying future money. So let's say that I buy an asset. I'm going to draw a picture of a house. That doesn't mean you need to buy real estate. An asset gives you income without requiring your time. Well, that means that I have to come up with money. That's red. I'm going to take money out of my pocket. I have to spend money. Let's call it $25,000. Insert whatever number you want. I'm going to take $25,000. I'm going to buy an asset. And then let's say that asset gives me green. Green is good. Gives me $500 a month in profit after expenses. Now, and if you don't like these ratios, if you're like, well, show me where 25 grand is going to buy me $500 a month. Okay, no problem. But if you don't like that number, jack this number to the moon and drop that number. You're missing the principle. The principle, this is what wealthy people do. I'm going to take money. I'm going to buy an asset that gives me my time back. How does it give you time? It gives you money. No, it gives you time. If my time is worth $50 an hour, can you see that? Times 10 hours equals $500 a month. So every asset that I buy, according to this formula, gives me 10 hours of my time back. So if I have 4 of these assets, that's replacing 40 hours of my time. Congratulations, you have just bought back your life. That's the entire name of the game. And that's the original concept between buying assets that produce passive income. When your passive income is greater than or equal to your expenses, you're free. Whatever time you are trading to earn money to pay for your bills, you get the time back when the asset's giving you the money. You go, well, I guess I don't have to keep working. That's the game. That's what I did. I bought my first I bought my first house when I was 20. I bought my first fix and flip when I was like 23, 24. I fixed that house up. I did a lot of that work myself. I wanted to teach myself the skills because I knew if I could learn the skills at that age, those skills would serve me forever. I could always do electrical. I could always do plumbing. I could always do carpentry. I did roofing, never doing that. Shout out to the roofers. That job sucks. Maybe because I'm in Texas. Maybe it's fine in Pennsylvania. And then I learned the skills. And then that was my first 6 figures in real estate from that one deal, that fix and flip. And then I took the fix and flip and I just continued to play the game. Bought assets. Now I've got controlling interest and equity in many different businesses that pay me income. But it's the same principle. It doesn't matter what asset you start with. You can buy a $70 bulk candy vending machine. You don't have to have a lot of money to do this. We'll go through assets and how the assets scale next time as we go live next Tuesday at noon, 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. I go live every Tuesday and every Thursday here on YouTube. If you want to hang out with us, 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. The principle is we buy assets. It doesn't matter the asset. Get in the game. We buy assets that produce income. When the income is greater than or equal to your expenses, you're free. You get your time back. Was this helpful? I hope you found value in this. If you've never been here before, my name is Will. I go live all the time, every morning on TikTok, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern. So if you want to hang out with us and learn how we buy assets, how we get cash flow, next week on YouTube, we're going to talk about tax savings. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of what a tax plan looks like. What is a tax plan? How can you pull down your taxable income as a business owner, keep more of that money, then use that money to go out there and buy assets? So even if you don't have money to get started buying assets, I'm going to teach you processes that you can use and implement to pull down your taxable income, free up cash to then use the tax savings to buy assets that produce more income and more tax savings. We'll talk about that next week. And of course, anything else. So if you've got questions, you've got things you want to learn about, let me know down in the comments. I've got a bunch of random stuff stuck in my head, and I'm happy to get it out. So if you've got something you want to learn about, hey, can you talk about this? Can you go into detail about that? Let me know down in the comments. I'm happy to help you. Other than that, I'll catch you later on. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next Tuesday, 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Eastern, and next Thursday here on YouTube, 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. Adios.